Yo, good looking sex people are doing all right today. Welcome, Wizard, Warrior, Wanderer, Wayfarer, and Wildcat alike. It is a Wednesday, I believe. It's 9 a.m. here. I've got an hour in between classes, so I figured I would check in for 30, 40 minutes and see how everyone's doing. Make sure you guys are all surviving out there in happy land. It's horseshit conditions here in the capital. Twilight Zone, Old Peking, Celestial Kingdom, all that. Central Kingdom, Celestial Dragon. Thought about reading "Twas the Night Before Christmas." You guys all know that one, right? That's a good one. It's the winter solstice, 2022. I am broadcasting from Beijing, China, which is rare that we have a VPN connection these days. Few and far between. Go fire myself up with JP Farrell. Join me, smoke them if you got them. Having myself a cup of coffee. Got it in a thermos so it stays hot. I like to keep the coffee hot. Hot coffee. Drink it as hot as you can handle it. That's what they say. The temple being in darkness. The speaker ascended into his place. Let him begin by a ritual of the enter as followeth. Procul, o procul este profani, balasti om pishta. In the name of the mighty and the terrible one, I proclaim that I have banished the shells unto their habitations. I invoke thee, Tahuti, Lord of wisdom and of utterance, the God that cometh forth from the veil. O thou majesty of Godhead, wisdom crowned Tahuti, Lord of the gates of the universe, thee, thee I invoke. O thou of the ibis head, thee I invoke. Thou who wieldest the wand of double power, thee I invoke. Thou who bearest in thy left hand the rose and cross of light and life, thee I invoke. Thou whose head is as an emerald, and thy nemesis as the night blue sky, thee, thee I invoke. Thou whose skin is a flaming orange, as though it burned in a furnace. Thee I invoke. Behold, I am yesterday, today, and the brother of tomorrow. I am born again and again. Mine is the unseen force whereof the gods are sprung, which is as life unto the dwellers in the watchtowers of the universe. I am the charioteer of the east, lord of the past and of the future. I see by mine own inward light. Lord of resurrection, who cometh forth from the dusk, and my birth is from the house of death. O ye two divine hawks upon your pentacles, who keeps watch over the universe, you who company the bear of the house of rest, who pilot the ship of Ra, advancing onwards to the heights of heaven, Lord of the shrine which standeth in the center of the earth. Behold, he is in me, and I am in him. Mine is the radiance wherein Ptah floateth over the firmament. I travel upon light, I travel upon high, I tread upon the firmament of Nu. I raise a flashing flame with the lightning of mine eye, ever rushing on in the splendor of the daily glorified Ra, giving my life to the dwellers of earth. If I say, come up upon the mountains, the celestial waters shall flow at my word, for I am Ra incarnate, Kephara created in the flesh. I am the eidolon of my father, Mu, Lord of the city of the sun, the God who commands in my mouth, the God of wisdom in my heart, My tongue is a sanctuary of truth, and a God sitteth upon my lips. My word is accomplished every day, and the desire of my heart realizes itself as that of who, when he createth. I am eternal, therefore all things are as my designs, therefore do all things obey my word. Therefore do thou come forth unto me from thine abode in the silence, unutterable wisdom, all light, all power, Thoth, Hermes, Mercury, Odin, Ludombing, by whatever name I call thee, thou art nameless to eternity. Come thou forth, I say, and aid and guard me in the work of art. Thou star of the east, that didst conduct the Magi, thou art the same all present in heaven and in hell, thou that vibratest between the light and the darkness, rising, descending, ever changing, yet ever the same. The sun is thy father, the moon, the mother is the moon. The wind hath borne thee in its bosom, and earth hath ever nourished the changeless Godhead of thy youth. Come thou forth, I say, come thou forth, and make all spirits a subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament, and of the ether, and of the earth, and under the earth, and on dry land, and in the water, of whirling air, and rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God in the vast one, may be obedient unto me. I invoke the priestess of the silver star, Asi, the curved one, by the ritual of silence. I make open the gate of bliss. I descend from the palace of the stars. I greet you. I embrace you, O children of the earth, that are gathered together in the hall of darkness. So it is commanded and confirmed. So mote it be. Hail unto thee who art Ra in thy rising. Love is the law. Love under will, free gift from God. Let's go. Hello, Circle K's here. How you guys doing today? Welcome to the chat. Sound myself a little JP Farrell, reading the invocation of Tahuti. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that one. I was going to read Twas the Night Before Christmas, and then I thought, well, maybe something a little more powerful than just the old Twas the Night Before Christmas and all through the house. Winter solstice, man. What are you guys doing for the winter solstice? It is the longest night of the year in the northern hemisphere, as you are aware. Osiris is risen, right? Or does he hide in the grave? What's going on with that these days? Are the stars aligning for you? I've been listening to a new set of stories here on YouTube by a guy named like Vladith 2 or something like that. I forget exactly the details. The author. Okay, so to find the stories, you could just look up At the Threshold of Evil. I think that's what it's called. Or maybe it's just called The Threshold of Evil Expanded Universe. Something like that. I think there are 8 or 9 tales in it so far. It's written by one guy on a Reddit channel. It's kind of like an SPC files types thing. And it's read by another guy, a voice actor, and they do a really good job. The writing's not flawless. It's pretty good though. Like I thought about some of my turn of phrase would be better. Like I could go in and edit it and make it a little more, I think, a little more powerful. But I don't know that I could do any better than him. Like bringing together all of the characters and fleshing them out and stuff. It's good. I've been enjoying it. Some of this, like I said, some of the turn of phrase seems a little weak and even childish. But I think he's a young writer, and for that kind of skill level and to produce that body of work already, I don't know anything about the guy. I just know that he's got a Reddit, and I know that a guy here on YouTube reads for him. So if you're interested in listening to um, that kind of thing, audiobooks and stuff, short stories, very Lovecraftian, you might check it out. It's called At the Threshold of Evil. The first story is about a house that this guy comes back from abroad and buys, and it's haunted. The woods near the home are haunted by a creature from the stars. It's really good, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Again, it feels very Lovecraftian, a little bit amateurish, and a little bit juvenile in the prose, but all in all, damn fun. I started listening last night as I went into the abodes of darkness, and I kept listening all the way into this morning. I think I'm on the seventh story, the sixth or seventh story. So I believe I actually listened to the last story first, so I know how the whole thing ends up. But it it ends up on a rebirth. So it's nowhere near finished, I would imagine. I think the guy's pretty early in his career. It looked like it was only looks like all the stories are only a couple of years old. So I'm thinking that we're at the beginning of this guy's career, which is fun. It's fun to see a new author and take part in their exploration. I'm warm and fed. Thank you. Circle K, good to see you. I forget exactly where you are, Circle K, but I'm thinking in the Merry United Kingdom somewhere. Merry Christmas to you guys. Next couple of days till Christmas, right? This is the roll down. I cheat and read the endings too. Yeah, it was just by accident. Like I clicked on the story and it was a YouTube suggestion, and it turned out that it was the last in the cycle. But as soon as like the guy's voice who reads them, it's not the same guy who writes and who reads. Cali, that's right, Central California, that unknown Twilight Zone land of Central California that nobody's ever heard of, that isn't on any map, that isn't chartered in any way, just a veritable abyss, a gulf between Northern California and Southern California. I'm sure one day it'll open up now that you're there, though. Maybe you've been there for a while. Are there Circle K in Central California? Seems like such an awkward thing to say. Central California. It's a little bit south of North California, right? Hanging out in the sticks. There's some interesting things there, though, I imagine, like some old ruins, some old world Tartarian ruins that have been turned into golf courses. Hello, China. Oh, the video started working, right? It was frozen for a second. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised even that they let me slip through even a little bit with the way things have been recently, with the draconian implementation of, you know, all the strange shit going on. I'm not going to talk about it. It's none of my business. Doesn't concern me. Let's stay on topic. Yeah, it is secret. It is secret land. It's like the land of Oz. The only way to get there is to follow the yellow brick road. Looks like Mary Moon is streaming. She says happy solstice. So maybe she's going live at the same time as me. That's interesting. Say hello to Miss Mary Moon if you guys head over there and check her out. I'm not sure what she's got going on. I haven't, like I said, with an insecure connection, I've kind of fallen out of the general pattern of streaming regularly. Um, no, I wasn't inspired. In fact, I started the channel in 2000 and what? 2016? I started it before I'd even heard about Poke Runyon. What inspired me to start it was, hey, Miss Mary Moon is there. I thought I saw like an update from you, not live, just made a Sagittarius Moon video. Okay, I'll go check that out when I'm done here. Um, yeah, I would like to say that no, Poke Runyon did not inspire me. I started this channel um, because Funny or Die gone uh, had lost their dignity and had gone morally bankrupt. So Funny or Die started. I don't know if you guys know the inception point, but in like 2010, these guys came to where I was doing a improv class. I was doing like an improv class at a bar here in Beijing in the hutongs, which are like the alleyways around the Forbidden City. And there was a big culture of Hutong culture, like alleyway culture, where they had small clubs and bars and independently run little guys. And I would go into those places and try to set up little classes like tarot classes and different kinds of things, do them for free. And I was doing an improv class at the time. I had taken an improv class with another guy at another Hutong at the Drum and Bell Tower, and he had disappeared, I thought. And so I started my own. And right after improv, these guys would come in and they started doing stand up comedy. And I just kind of took off for like the first 6 months or something of them doing it because I didn't know much about it. I knew about stand up, but I was busy with my own shit. And my wife always harassing me, to get home early and that kind of thing. And so I would jet out early. But then one of the guys, the guy that started it, Toby Jarman, he convinced me to hang around and check it out. And so I did, and I thought it was pretty funny. It's like a whole different scene. Like rather than interacting with people, because I'm used to having like dance classes and kung fu classes and improv classes and this kind of stuff where you're interacting with everyone all the time, and it's kind of a group endeavor. It's like you just lay back, sit in the audience, and listen to some guys, tell jokes or whatever. You guys know the thing. And so I watched it for a solid year. Thank you, man. I appreciate that, Circle K. So I watched it for a solid year before I tried my hand at it. And so then I started doing stand up and I enjoyed it. Like, I really felt like the Joker, you know? Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say. Thank you, Circle K. Um, Moon in Sagittarius, 7 hours. So I made a video earlier since it's busy tomorrow. Busy, busy. Yeah. With the solstice and Christmas and the 100-day magical challenge about to fire up. I would imagine that everybody's really busy right this time of year. The 3 days of darkness, right? Before the resurrection. Um, the resurrection of Osiris. So to finish the story, yeah, so you could like I would film my stuff on my phone, the comedy stand-up comedy sets, and then I wanted to upload them somewhere and share them with people and like get feedback, from other people. And so there was a website called Funny or Die, started by Will Ferrell, and I put hundreds and hundreds of videos on it. And there were maybe like 20 people in the Beijing Comedy Club China stand-up scene, and maybe three or four of us uploaded our videos regularly to Funny or Die, and you could vote on it. You could vote funny, and the funny meter would go up, or you vote die and it would go back down. So the meter would swing between people either thinking it was funny or thinking you should go kill yourself. And so it was a great platform. But in 2013, they kicked everyone off of the platform, and they kicked all individual, like they kicked all user created content. They purged it. Well, they took what they wanted, and then they told you, you have 24 hours to download your videos or it'll be lost forever, because we're just choosing the best of the best to stay on our platform. And they took some of my ideas and created TV series out of them. That's where you got Black Monday. Like they copied my character, they took my intellectual property, Frank Monday, and created their own character called Black Monday. And so they were stealing from everyone, and they just used it as a way to gather data. And so when that happened, it kind of broke my heart. Like I had invested quite a bit, like I said, maybe about 200 videos on there, and I was only able to download like maybe 10 of them. So I just downloaded like the 10 best. And the internet wasn't 10 years ago. Well, the internet was probably better 10 years ago, actually. But then I heard about YouTube because I've been in China since 2001, and YouTube didn't start until like 2005, I think. Like Facebook started in like 2003. So all of these things, I was learning about them. In fact, I called that the Frank Monday effect. When you've been living abroad so long that you don't learn about something important until like 2 or 3 years after it happens. Like one of your favorite actors dies or something, and you won't hear about it for like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. In fact, some people I found out had already been dead for like 10 years, and I'd be in conversations with people and be like, oh, it's has such and such put out anything recently or whatever? And they're like, bro, he's been dead for like a decade. And I'm like, wow, yeah. So that's called the Frank Monday effect. And I coined that term prior to the Mandela effect. So anyway, at the time of the Great Turning, 2012, when the Mandela effect really did start kicking in, and they started removing all user created content, that's when I started looking for someplace new to put my material. But I thought that when I joined YouTube, I started with like a new mindset. I was just going to start putting my swing dancing reviews. So I started, yeah, it's interesting too because it's a city of 50 million people, but I'm the only foreigner here within like a couple of mile radius that I know of, and I basically socialize with no one. So yeah, I'm pretty cut off from everything, similar to like, yeah, a small village in Canada. Anyway, so what was the point there? Oh, so I started YouTube to do ghetto gardening. Like I was going around these little ghettos here and filming people's gardens and doing my own garden out in the ghetto. And so ghetto gardening was part of it. Kids kung fu classes in the park. I would kind of film some of the kung fu stuff, and then Monday night swing review. So I did it for those three endeavors. And then when I got involved with Troy's team, I started making kung fu short films. And so I was on Troy's team Challenger project, which lasted approximately, and we would he was developing the Challenger project. I was production. I even acted on one of them. I even acted on one of them, the Challenger #4. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but independent film. We were the first foreign team to shoot an independent film in Mao Zedong's home, where Mao Zedong lived during the revolution. We shot one there. We were the first foreign team to be allowed in the Buddhist temple here in Beijing to shoot an independent foreign film. And so we were really breaking ground for like Beijing. Like they don't just let you go into these sacred sites and shoot independent films, but like with my contacts in television and stuff and his contacts, and we had some other guys that were involved with the program, like a really big shot guy here that does he's working on like a it's been an ongoing documentary for like I don't think it's turned into a TV series, but he's a locally based guy, but he's an American guy originally, and it's called the the yeah, that was fun stuff. Thank you, Mary. I'm all for a revival of swing dance. And yeah, so my the way the swing dance started was I was at university here as a visiting scholar in a research program, like poetry and Taoism and stuff. But basically, like post grad, like I already got my master's back in the States, and I was working towards a PhD in specifically in Chinese literature. Um, but during that time was the first COVID lockdown in 2003. And one of the guys that was a student at the university that I was at was an American, half Chinese from San Francisco, and he did swing dancing. And he started an underground speakeasy and started teaching swing during the first lockdown 20 years ago, right? During the first SARS COVID lockdown. Because we already had one. This is it's been going on for 20 years for us. And so we went into like a 6 week lockdown and they were telling us not to socialize, not to go out of our dorms and stuff like that. And the only kind of phones we had were little candy bar phones. And so he started organizing underground swing classes over text messaging. And I ended up getting an invite from a Russian guy actually. And I started participating in that. And then when everything kind of went back to normal and they started opening up bars and stuff again, he started doing his swing dance class at the CD Jazz Cafe here in Beijing, and I would go every time. And he started a swing deposit deal where if you gave him like $1,000 and you would get 12 classes, you would have to attend a 12 class cycle. And if you didn't miss a single class, he would give you back all of your money. Like if you missed one class, you forfeited your $1,000 or whatever. But if you stayed on board and hit all 12 classes at the end of the cycle, he would just return your money because his main drive was that he wanted people learning swing. And so, yeah, it's fun stuff. I love swing dance. So I stuck with his program for 5 years. And at the end of the 5 years, when he told me he was going back to the US, I'm like, hey, you never returned my swing deposit, and I've never missed a single class in like 5 years. And he's like, you really want that back? And I'm like, no, but I said, you said that, you would return the swing deposit. And he's like, okay, I'll give it back to you. And I'm like, always do what you say and only say what you know you can live up to. It's like I feel like I've gotten more than $1,000 worth of swing training here, but at the same time, I've invited tons of people that have spent money on your classes. I buy drinks. I would buy, 2 or 3 beers every time I went after class, of course. But I would hang around and I would promote his classes and stuff like that. And it's like, you said you were going to give it back. And that was the deal. That was the contract. He even had like a paper contract. And I'm like, I signed it. I still have it. I've never missed a single class in 5 years. I said, I feel like I've kind of earned it, haven't I? And so he ended up reluctantly, begrudgingly gave me back my money. And he kind of hated me ever after that because probably tough, he's leaving the country and, it's like the end of his career and stuff. And I didn't push for it though. I just said, you said you were going to give it back. You might as well give it back. And so he did. And yeah, no doubt. We stayed friends on Facebook for about a decade after he left. I think he left in like 2008 or 2009. And we were friends up until Trump. When Trump got elected president, everybody on Facebook kind of disowned me because I was like, yeah, Trump, go Americana, fucking ghetto redneck. Horse shit. It was all subterfuge anyway. Trump was a big liar, but he was he was the better of two evils, right? I mean, you could have had Hillary, and all of this would have been 4 years earlier. They would have started implementing this new world order 4 years earlier. You wouldn't even have had the 4-year respite with low gas prices. You would have just launched straight into $10 a gallon. You know, um, fuck the serfs. But let's not get into politics. Anyway, the point was to tell you the origin of my YouTube channel. I didn't hear about Poke Runyon until 2017. I think it was even later, like 2018, maybe. And I think I've told you the story about how I discovered Poke Runyon. Who asked that question anyway? I'm grateful for friends I've lost due to politics. I'm grateful for the friends I've lost due to politics. Yeah, fuck them. I mean, come on. Here's the funny thing. All the people like that are kind of conservative and a little more redneck and supported Trump kind of didn't support him, but kind of was on board with the idea of Americana and making, MAGA, make America great again. And who gives a fuck who does it? Could be a reincarnation of JFK for what all I care. But here's the huge difference between those people and the people that were like Biden, Clinton supporters. They could say whatever they want. They could demean Trump. They could do anything they want, right? And you would never delete them because they're just people. It's just their political opinion. Who cares, right? But if you said one good thing about Trump and the Trump derangement people, like anyone in your family, friends, whoever, if you gave one positive post in Trump's direction, you got immediately deleted and like attacked from every angle. And this happened to me on two things. One was kind of the Trump train, right? And I was never really on board that much to begin with anyway. I didn't give a fuck either way. But I told like my brother, for example, it destroyed our relationship. I said, he's going to win. He did 12 years of television to prepare the world to like him, to prepare America to vote for him. That's what The Apprentice was all about. It was all about positioning himself for presidency. Trump had been trying to position himself for the presidency since he was in his 30s. He's been on the scene since the 70s, vying for presidency and hinting at it and toying with the idea. So I'm like, he's gonna win. Obviously, nobody likes Hillary. She's the worst evil that's ever existed. Um, but anyway, what was the point? Oh, so getting attacked for that was one thing, and the other thing was flat Earth. Like, in 2017, I flew home to visit with family, and because I thought, MAGA, make America great again. It's time to go back home. I'm done with China. Now we've got a decent leader in the White House. I might as well go home and pay a visit. Uh, and so on the airplane, I was reading Robert Anton Wilson's book, Prometheus Rising, And he mentioned, just he kind of made a joke, a slight at globe earth people, like didn't even say it that way. It wasn't couched in that language, but he was just pointing out the paradigm shifting, right? And like being malleable, is it round? Is it flat? Is it expansive? Is it whatever? You can't figure it out. It's a mystery. So he was in, he's all about embracing the mystery, but he had this one hand drawn cartoon of an earth spinning with people hanging off of it as it shot through space. And it was headlined with imagine the speeds in their minds. And he gave like the calculations of the rotation and then shooting through space and then the speed of the sun and like how all of that going together creates this huge firmament of stability. And he's like, imagine the difference between the stability you feel, and you could see the sun shooting around over you, and then trying to reorganize all that into a ball and then shooting through space. And he didn't commit to either one because, if you know Dr. Bob, then you know that he's very malleable in his tunnel realities and paradigms. And so when I got to the US, I had decided that I was going to do a thought experiment on embracing the idea of a flat earth and trying to convince myself over, like, anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks that that was a reality, and gather all the data and try to convince myself of it. And I got so attacked by like family and friends and people on Facebook for being a lunatic. And I found out that there was this whole flat earth movement, something I'd never even heard of before. And my uncle started calling me a member of the Flat Earth Society and stuff like that. And I thought, wow, when there's an interesting idea that you just want to entertain, like make America great again, like nationalism or something like that, or the mystery of the realm, right? And the revelation of the realm, whether it be flat, globe, oblique, spheroid, concave, convex, whatever. Just the fact that you're trying to intellectually explore it and that people give you so much blowback. It's obviously that those people who do that, they don't have any security in their own belief systems. And me being malleable since a kid and like switching belief systems routinely just for experimentation, I thought, well, I'm I'm much more advanced on the path of self mastery than these people are. If they become so ridiculous when their thought structures are shaken up a little bit, that they'll like literally lash out with all type of like 2-year old antics, like pointing at you and laughing and telling other people and stuff, hey, look, it's a flat earther, it's a flat earther. It's like not even high school level politics. This is fucking grade school level horse shit. And I thought they're they reduce themselves to an infantile mindset by not being explorative and curious. And it was really baffling to me. But I kind of felt like at the beginning days when Funny or Die went the way that it did, a corporate controlled, Will Ferrell started website, and it started like basically just stealing everyone's material to create their own proprietary material and then purging user created content. I thought that YouTube would not be far behind. And Styx Hexenhammer was talking about it too. He was talking about the Great Purge and stuff like that. And so they handled it much differently on YouTube. Like they handpicked the people that they threw off, and then they just chastised and censored and admonished those who deviated from the norm. And so we all fell into such a routine of self-censoring that it just became 1984. And so we were legitimately living in a Twilight Zone 1984 where everyone's walking around on eggshells, and anything you hear now, it basically toes the party line and is very mainstream, even if it's not, even if it's like pretending to be edgy, like Lex Friedman or Steven Crowder or Tim Pool or any of those guys, Styx Hexenhammer, they're still very mainstream. In that, they're still promoting the daily news, and they're still promoting the idea that all of these transient affairs actually matter. And so I thought, well, it's better just not to even get involved in it. Just stick to what you know. And what I know is spirituality. Didn't you work with him at his temple What made you go? Okay, so free gift from God. You're the one asking the question. How did you get into poke? Okay, so here's how it happened. In after 2017, I came back to China because my situation. She always tries to isolate. And so I battled for years to be able to do things like my swing dance class, my magic gatherings, my kung fu classes, anything that was free. I had to battle to do because she's like, oh, it doesn't make money. It doesn't support the family. You shouldn't do it. And I'm like, no, 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 you should. People need a social life. That's a part of a good life is having friends and socializing with them. And I make friends by offering free classes in kung fu, swing dance, magic, whatever. That's how I did it. And so I got into a bit of a depression and I started hitting the whiskey bottle sometimes, occasionally. And a couple of times I ended up in a really dark situation. And it got so bad at one point, like she's fighting with me, calling the police on me, even fucking tried to stab me and shit, and just like crazy shit going on. Um, that I was ready to give up. I was going to jump out the fucking window, or I was going to, cut my own goddamn throat. I was contemplating suicide. And I've never been a person that would ever do that. And it really shook me to the core. And so I went down into my courtyard, and I had gotten back into magic recently through some of my old books and stuff. And so I did a ritual, and I was about to step past the veil, right? Yo, 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 give me a yo if you can still land connection. Yo, 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 yo. Any magic out in voodoo land, guys? Okay, yo, I see yos coming in. Thank you for the yos, guys. It looks like YouTube cut me off for a minute. You were about to step past the veil. Yeah, so I was about to give up entirely and just, I was actually challenging God. So I did my ritual and I did some invocations and stuff. And then, like, I took some time and I really gave God an ultimatum, and I was like shaking my fist at him. And I said, one of two things. I said, you give me an immediate sign to make me stay in this plane of existence and let me know that my self-sacrifice is enough and that my kids really need me. I said, if not, I'm going to cross over the veil. I'm going to come there. I'm going to see you directly. We're going to have a face to face. I'm asking you what the fuck's going on, why you're allowing me to mire in such madness and be dominated by this woman and stuff. And I was very serious about it. I was right at the edge of just getting in there, I'm being like, God, fuck you. We're gonna wrestle, bro, is what's gonna happen. So anyway, I had a lot of depression and anger and sadness and stuff that had been building up. And a voice came to me at that time. I saw like a shooting star. There was a light in my mind, and a voice whispered directly into my ear, Astarte. And I went, what? Okay, there it is. Like, it was so legitimate, so visceral, so tangible. It wasn't a thought in my head. It was a whisper from a spirit that I felt the wind on my neck, and I felt the chi, and I felt like a spirit literally come up and like kiss me on the ear and whisper into my ear, Astarte. And so I went back in and I said, okay, that's enough. That's a sign. A genuinely transmitted voice, whether it had been, I was hidden in my little courtyard here out there in the open air. I didn't have any electronic devices with me. Maybe someone used a little whisper device or something, but it seemed like it was a legit communication from a spiritual entity. And so I started doing research and looking for it, trying to figure out what was going on. Who's Astarte? I'd never heard of it before that I could remember. Obviously, it came from my memory somewhere, but I couldn't remember. And there was no direct connection because I was so deep in my depression. And it directed me to the Church of Hermetic Science. And I found out that the OTA, the Ordo Templi Astarte. Hey, Frater Marlowe, good to see you, man. I'm retelling one of my old tales. And so I started doing the research, and then I started studying Poke's material and listening to the Hermetic Hour, and he started talking about like how he almost died from a similar. I started to listen to his stories, and his life story was very similar to mine at the same time and age. Like quaffing down copious amounts of coffee and chain smoking and trying to write stories and stuff like that, and at the same time practicing magic when he received his liberation from the same goddess, from Astarte. And I thought, wow. So there's a direct spiritual link between my story and his story. And so I just started studying his material religiously, and I wanted to get his books, some of his books, and I wanted to receive the initiation into the Temple of Astarte. And so Astarte came and started visiting me periodically, and guided me in a ritual, a spell working, a magic working that allowed me to go to California. And I spent 6 months living in California and got initiation into the Temple of Astarte at Pope's Temple there in Southern California. And the interesting thing is before any of that occurred, I had already like either time traveled there or astrally traveled there because I had already visited his temple in Dreamland. I had already visited him through meditation, and I had been through all this series of initiations before I got there. And I met him, and I was in his room with him, and he was in like I'm not going to tell you the specific details, but I wrote these entire set of short stories about it, and I was there with him and I had communion with him and I asked him a bunch of questions and he actually gave me an item. And then when I went there and I finally like literally met the man and saw his house and saw the room, I was like, bro, I've already been here and done all this. Like I knew I'm not gonna tell you guys the specifics. It's kind of private inner temple stuff. But I had done it all astrally and already wrote about it and journaled about it with confirmation and proof. You know, I had named him and I had described his appearance and the robes he was wearing, and I hadn't seen any of that prior to that. So I had engaged in legitimate scrying and the spirit vision, astral travel, the dual location, all kinds of things that were just total tangible proofs. And so once I got past that, you know, dark night of the soul, as it were, then my initiation really started. And so finally I went there and I got initiated and I got the secret robe stuff, like the loincloth and the little hat and his books. And here's the thing, once I came back to China, he kind of cut me off. Like Pope doesn't trust China or the Chinese. And so once I got over here, I wanted to continue my relationship with the temple. And I'm still a member of the temple, but he's like, nah, he's like, I can't really practice your stuff, practice your kung fu, practice your. He's like, as far as like interacting over the internet, he's like, we can't really do that with you because of where you're at. So he has a great mistrust of China, and I guess that's Asian is by physically going back to the United States. Like he won't even tell me the second level material that I need to study. Can I help you? Okay. If I can, let me know, bro. Online classes. Yeah, so that was kind of a bummer. And there isn't really anyone else. Like I've talked to a couple of other guys from the temple, like Frater Sithmeth and Frater Solomon, and they all just kind of like they're kind of like tight-lipped. They're like, as long as you're in China, we're not going to send you proprietary material, and we're not going to yeah, because they just I guess they don't do that. So that's why it's I guess it's up to me. Um, yeah, it's just up to me to I guess start my own temple, and I guess this is part of it. Scrying over the dark mirror with you guys here on YouTube. That's definitely part of it. I still have access to YouTube, or I mean, I'm back in access to YouTube, so that's great. Having you guys as brothers, Frater Francis out in Jersey, and Frater Marlowe out in British Columbia, and Circle K there in Central California, and Miss Mary Moon. And so you guys have become my magical circle. You're the only other magicians I know. I met a Freemason recently, a couple of years ago, here in China, like right during the first lockdown, like 2020, the beginning of 2020, and he was applying at our school, and he knew a lot of stuff. Like he knew some of the hand symbols, and he's a longtime Mason, low level Mason. He's a master Mason, but he's a low level Mason. And I was like talking about occult stuff with him and stuff, and he was applying at our company. I'm like, yeah, man, that would be awesome if you could come to our, you know, come to our academy and teach there, because then we could start up a magical, you know, a once a week meeting group and do some do some magical inquiry and stuff like that. But he didn't fly in. And then I've noticed that the only other people that kind of get me on social media in China, because I've almost all but stopped using it, are oftentimes they turn out to be either Freemasons or Rosicrucians or other practitioners of craft of some kind. But like even like the witchy crowd, the Wiccans and stuff like that, they don't get it, and they don't like they're in it for more of a materialism aspect rather than a spiritual aspect. I'm not saying I have anything against those folks, but they're more in it for the shine of it, for like wearing a witchy hat and being seen as a spellcaster. Whereas people who I don't know that are into the I guess the genuineness of it aren't really interested in the bells and whistles. They're interested in the work, the great work. FFM is the elder. Well, you always do whatever you are. You always got to do whatever you are. Yeah. So I'm. It's going to be tough here in Old Peking because they're not allowing any community anymore. And it's like, how do you have an effective swing dance class online? It's like you would at least need a dance partner. I guess I could use my wife, but she's so irascible and most of the times like ill-tempered. And that's not my fault. She was that way, I guess, when I met her. I mean, she became that way within the first year of our marriage. But Master Nee had predicted that too. He said that your first marriage was going to be really hard. He said your second wife will be of a greater benefit to you. And um, he said, would you be? Because my father was kind of a philanderer and got married multiple times, and he said, would you do the same as your father and like jump ship? And I said no. I said for me, I have to once I'm in the relationship and I've committed. Even if it turns out bad, then I'm going to stick with it because that's a part of the work. You have to bring your kids up to the level that they're in the world and secure. And I've never really considered divorce to be an option. I guess that's kind of my traditional Judaistic nature. And Jesus did not approve of divorce. He said we should not be able to easily give up our our empress and abandon her and the children. He said that that was a very evil thing. So Jesus was really the first advocate of women's rights as far as that goes. Okay, so how strange. I've recently been reconnecting with old teachers lately. I took a break due to the problems in my psyche. It's been like 7 years. Yeah, it's good to take a break. Like, I started my magical career when I was young, 12, 13, 14, started reading the old grimoires and doing kung fu, practicing kung fu daily. But by the time I hit like my mid 20s, it was all esoteric Taoism for me. I'd totally given up on the Western mystery tradition because I couldn't find any real magic in it. But in the qigong and kung fu practice, I found real magic. So for me, like just communing with nature and doing my qigong out in nature and like occasionally finding mystic herbs, like Mary Jane sometimes just appears to me. I'll be out under a moonlit night or something, and have been a couple of years since I've had a little toke, and I'll do a little kung fu and qigong and prayer, and I'll see like maybe an owl or something, and then see moonlight glowing, and I'll see the mystic herb growing there. It's typically a tiny little bush with like feminine flowers all over it in harvest, and it'll just appear to me and be like grab me, and I'll grab it, take it home and hang it up, upside down for a couple of days or whatever, and then bag it up, and I'll have all these little nuggets of, it's never very powerful, but it's just like that type of thing made a deep connection to me when I was very, very young. Cactuses occasionally will appear, but I've never had mushrooms appear to me. I've always wanted them to, but they never have. Well, at one time I was interested in it, and a CIA guy came through here out of like, he would just been spending time in Costa Rica, and he had a huge bag full of beautiful mushrooms that they had just grown like locally, and he was giving them out for free and stuff at the clubs. and he was a wonderful guy. And I ended up with a big handful of them. He's like, Frank Monday, and he just stuck like a huge handful of caps in my hand one day. And I ended up putting it into like 10 little bags and letting them dry up or whatever. And I ate like a very, very small amount. And then I mixed some of it with some other potent herbs and ended up smoking the rest over like 10 years. It took me like 10 years to finally go through all of that, but it became weaker and weaker. After the first couple of years, it was basically just reduced to rubbish. But I always kept it held back. I think I still have a small bag somewhere that's basically just powder, you know. But I'm a very conservative guy. In fact, I read this recently too in one of the major arcana that storing up and holding back a little bit of energy for the future is the way to wealth, right? Let me see if I can find that exact phrasing of the way it was written. I think it's worth sharing with you guys if I can find it really quick. If not, I'm not going to sit here and struggle looking for it. It seems like I had it open. Yeah, there it is. Where's that? Where's that? Here it is. This is actually from the Poor Richard's Almanac. It was towards the end. Um, be frugal and free. Be industrious and free. Maintain your independency. The borrower is a slave to the lender, and the debtor to the creditor. Be a superstitious lot, a great observer of set days and times. So he's giving an entire talk. I don't know if you guys have ever read it. It's called Benjamin Franklin's The Way to Wealth. It appeared in the 1733 edition of the Poor Richard's Almanac. So the very first almanac he published. And he says, what madness it must be to run into debt for superfluities. We are offered by the terms of this vineyard. He's talking about credit and stuff. He says the first vice is running into debt, and the second vice is lying. Lying rides upon debt's back. So he's talking about being free of debt. But where is it? Where's that part I wanted to share with you guys? Oh, here it is. Get what you can, and what you can get, hold. 'Tis the stone that will turn all of your lead into gold. Yeah, storing up for tomorrow. Be a prepper. I mean, essentially, he was one of the first preppers, right, in American culture. But yeah, you're right. I think sometimes it can be too abundant. Like, um, people that have easy access to it, like I would like to have a little access. Jesus Christ, like having zero access is terribly mind nerve wracking and mind numbing. You can't be cut off from source entirely, right? But having like direct endless access can just wear you out because it should only be used occasionally. Like I would suggest if you are going to use mystic medicine, like I would say either 4 times a year or once a month. Like if you want to be excessive, every full moon you could get up there and toke out a little bit, maybe have a glass of bourbon and dance with some other witches and stuff, sky clad in the woods. But I think that's even a little much. I would say around the times of the cardinal points, the equinoxes and the solstices, that would be fine with me. That would be dandy. That's more than I do. Mine's like once or twice a year, if I'm lucky. Um, this year nothing appeared. Last year nothing appeared, and so it's kind of a bummer because I was looking and I went out sowing seeds of wisdom, but nothing ever appeared. They did a really good job on sterilizing all of the gardens this year. Like they had the gardeners out in force killing everything that was growing and replanting with genetically modified organisms and stuff. Yeah, I concur. Once a month is perfect. Work hard from week to week. Even your weekend warriors, guys who like to start on Friday and party through till Sunday. I think that's fine too. That's not excessive, but it's more than I would indulge. Yeah. So get what you can, and what you get, hold, is the stone that will turn all of your lead into gold as paying taxes. But you got to remember, Benjamin, government were to tax you 1/10 of your income, then they would be considered tyrannical. And I think he would have his musket in hand for the level the government taxes people now. Yeah, it should be kept secret. It should definitely be kept sacred. It shouldn't become a thing that's just becomes prosaic or mundane or puerile, right? Like daily use. That makes it very puerile. Like that's overuse, in my opinion, because you don't get the real awakening enlightenment from the smell and the scent and taste of the flower unless it's few and far between. Like when you get used to that feeling of easy access to opening the psychic centers through powering up on a blunt or something, then it just doesn't really mean anything. And at the same time, it exhausts your psychic centers because not only do they open, but they vent, right? So you take a puff, puff, puff or whatever, and suddenly your center dantian, your heart center is just wide open, venting, and that takes away from your what's called yun qi, your original energy. And the idea is like Benjamin Franklin's saying here is that you save up enough throughout your lifetime that at the time of death you have something left over. If you get to the time of death and you're spent, right? You're worn out and beat up from the feet up and worn out. According in Tao, you become a hungry ghost. You don't become a soul, or like your soul doesn't preserve. So you need to refrain and retain and store energy in those Domtians so that when you pass from this world into the next, you have a genuine spiritual treasure, a storehouse of energy that you can use. Because it's going to be fucking confusing for most people that walk into death uninitiated. I don't normally comment on the matter, nevertheless. I haven't been able to watch Frater Monday for a while without plenty of the internet's interruptions these days. Yeah, I know it sucks. Thank you for that, Brother Marlowe. I appreciate that. That's high praise from you, sir. Yeah, you got to keep secrets. That's right. To know, to dare, and to be silent. All things in moderation. Yeah, those are that type of timeless wisdom. Um, yeah, from what I've learned, like stepping beyond the veil, that can be very traumatic for most people. I've been beyond several times, near death experiences and real death experiences, like being resuscitated by the emergency room. And then, of course, my great crossing of the abyss recently, where like I, you know, I went beyond. But anyway, people that haven't been beyond before, maybe they suddenly have to go beyond the veil. They're going to be totally disoriented and totally confused. That's why the astral projection, the 100-day magical challenge of astrally projecting into the spirit world and starting to get a feel for what it's like over there is super important. And I hope you guys are willing to participate and endeavor to participate, and that we get enough of an internet connection over the next 3 months in order to make it a legitimate training session. So some of it, yeah, some of it you can directly perceive yourself through intuition and gnosis. Some of it has been written by great minds that went before and sat in deep meditation and actually saw beyond the veil. And I like the way that I've been going about it throughout my life, which is storing up the chi and energy and then awakening the heavenly vision, right? To see beyond into the realms of twilight on my own. And then later finding that information in the grimoires that's been published into Hermetic sciences and those types of sources, because then it means something to me. Like as I read through it, I'm like, wow, yeah, I've already experienced all that. I've already seen all that. I've done that. I know the work. I know the way to get there. And so it's much better somehow to learn it that way. So maybe I'm a student of the school of hard knocks. I get out there and get knocked in the head a few times, and then start taking some martial arts classes. Right? I get out there and make a fool of myself on the dance floor, and then start taking some dance lessons. Um, I get knocked out of my body through any type of tragic death, whether it's a car accident or brain surgery or whatever, and then see it first, and then get back in there later and start learning. Like I visited Poke Runyon astrally before I went to visit him physically. I did the same with Master Knee watching too. I wanted so bad. I studied Master Knee's material from like maybe 15 years old to 19. And around the time I was 19, I wanted so bad to meet that guy that I ended up becoming his apprentice and living with him in Oregon. But I was already visiting him astrally before I went to see him physically. And I prepared the way, as it were, through my work in magic. And so I think that's somehow important. Yeah, that would be fun, man. Um, we're all so spread out. Well, I think that's kind of been the New World Order's whole deal, is that they destroyed our ability to have community, and like even destroyed our ability to visit each other anymore, really. Like even to get out and see your neighbor. Like here they've just destroyed all ability. Like um I could, not during this live chat per se. I mean, that takes sitting quietly for a few minutes, and that doesn't really make for a very engaging live chat. But yeah, Fred or Marlo, I could do that. Um, do you need to use my phone, bro? I can just go. Okay, go ahead with my phone. Are we still connected? No, it looks like we disconnected. Yo, yo, yo. Are we still connected? I got to get ready for my next class, guys. It starts in like 10, 15 minutes. So I gotta have I got to get my lesson plan on game. Disconnected. I think we're back now, though. Looks like the clock is ticking. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Man, it's 11 in 2 days. Today's December 21st. Good to see you too. Good to see all of you. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for checking in. Um, I'll put up a I'll put up a post on the community thing, and let me know if you're gonna participate in the 100-day magical challenge. Just drop like an Ad Astra or Carpe Diem or Subsisto Fortis or something like that. Just any kind of message. Just say hello, a smiley face, whatever. I'd like to kind of know who's on board. But for me, it will be beginning on the new moon in Capricorn. Let me give you the exact time and date on the calendar here. The tarot card of contemplation will be the Chariot, number 7. The Chariot card is connected to your natural drive and determination, and it can indicate an upcoming victory. This card reminds you that your greatest success won't come through limited thinking, but when you combine the knowledge of your mind with that of your heart and spirit, you become an unstoppable force. So start thinking tarot contemplation of the Chariot, number 7, and it will be the new moon in Capricorn. Okay, so today the sun goes into Capricorn at 2:48 p.m. The new moon will go into Capricorn. It'll be a new moon at 5:18 a.m. on Friday. Yeah, 23rd. Friday the 23rd. It will transition from Sagittarius into Capricorn for the moon at 2:50 a.m. So the morning of the 23rd is when I will begin the transmission of the 100-day magical challenge. And that night, so the practices for this round will be done as you go into the abodes of the twilight realm. So there'll be evening practices, affirmations and stuff, and the astral method as you go to sleep at night. I'm checking the chat. Yeah, the old cigarettes. Yeah, I burned some of the tobacco, man. It's one of my failings. It's one of the great failings of my youth. Yeah, I'll go over it for the challenge. I will. I'm gonna assemble all that into a presentation. Do what thou will, right? Live up to your complete virtue. And being a smoker seems to be a part of my complete virtue somehow. So embrace it, right? Smoke those fucking cigarettes like you want to. Yeah, catch a ride on the chariot, guys. We're going to start off with the chariot. It'll be we'll contemplate the chariot card for 10 days. Say we got 100 days. We're going to contemplate 10 carefully chosen major trumps, major arcana. Um, the chariot will be the first one. That's the one that's going to launch our vehicle, right? We're going to be astrally traveling with the chariot as our power base. So start looking over it, start thinking about it. Think about of course, I'll be using the Rider White Smith Tarot Coleman, Pamela Coleman Smith, the one that artist presented with Arthur Edward Wyatt and then was published by Rider. It's the most ubiquitous. You can see it all over the internet. So it's easy to find. There's the Urim and Thummim on the shoulders. So crescent moons on the shoulders. Learn about what that means. Learn about what his vestiges mean, his zodiacal crown, right? The chariot itself with the canopy of Nuit, the twin sphinxes up front, that symbol in the front. Contemplate a little bit of the symbology and all of that. The fact that the chariot is not that the steeds, the sphinxes pulling the chariot, they're not bound. He has no reins. He's got a scepter in his right hand, right? Contemplate all of those things. And we'll be launching forward with that and the astral method, which I've uniquely developed. It's basically just an acronym for encoding while you go to sleep at night, right? The ASTRAL method. Yeah, so I look forward to that. If you guys can participate with me, I would welcome that. I got a lot of love for all y'all good looking, sexy people out in Happy Land, as above, so below, as we wander into the abodes of the future. Do good magic. Until next time, Zaijian.